All right, let's dive in. Today, we are pulling the curtain back on one of history's biggest names, Thomas Alva Edison. You know, the guy whose name is basically a synonym for inventor. But was he really the lone genius we all picture in our heads? Well, let's find out.
You've probably heard this one, right? It's his most famous quote. And it really paints a picture, doesn't it? This image of a guy, sleeves rolled up, sweating it out in his lab, all alone, just wrestling with an idea until it works. It's a great soundbite, and it's basically the foundation of the whole Edison myth. But that hard work, that's really just the tip of the iceberg.
And then there's this number, 1,093. That's how many U.S. patents have Thomas Edison's name on them. I mean, that is a staggering, wild number. It's no wonder they called him the Wizard of Menlo Park. But today, we're going to look behind the wizard's curtain. So let's start right there, with the legend that everybody knows, the Wizard of Menlo Park. This is the classic tale of the self-made man who, supposedly, single-handedly lit up the entire world.
This is the story we all learned in school. One guy, one brilliant mind, gives us the phonograph, the movie camera, and of course, the light bulb. But is that really how it all went down? Not even close. And honestly, the real story is way more fascinating.
See, to really get Edison's genius, you have to look past the man himself for a second and look at the place he created. This revolutionary concept he called his invention factory. Now this right here might be Edison's actual single greatest invention. Not a light bulb, not a phonograph, but a process. He created the world's first industrial research lab, basically a factory designed to pump out innovations one after the other. He industrialized the very process of having a great idea.
And this was no quiet, solitary workshop. Oh no, Edison had a whole team of researchers, and he worked them like crazy. We're talking 18-hour days. And the lab itself, he wanted it to have, and this is a quote, a stock of almost every conceivable material. Think about that. 8,000 different chemicals. Hair from humans, horses, hogs, even shark's teeth and tortoise shells. Invention at Menlo Park wasn't a solo act. It was a high-pressure, incredibly well-stocked team sport.
All right, let's talk about the big one, the light bulb, because it's the perfect example of how Edison thought. He wasn't just thinking about an object. He was thinking about a whole system, an entire ecosystem.
Okay, so here's something that might surprise you. Thomas Edison did not invent the first light bulb. Other people had already made them. The problem was, their bulbs would burn out in just a few minutes. Useless, right? What Edison and his team did, after trying thousands of things, was find the magic ingredient, a tiny filament of carbonized bamboo that could glow for over 1,200 hours. He didn't invent the light bulb. He perfected it. He made it work for the real world.
But here's the real genius. The bulb was just one piece of the puzzle. He knew that to beat the gas lamps, he needed a whole system. So, first you need to make the power. Boom, he builds the Pearl Street Power Station. Then you have to get the power to people's houses, so he designs an efficient distribution network. And then, and this is the crucial part, you have to be able to charge people for it, so he invents a meter. See, he wasn't just selling a product, he was selling the entire utility, the whole shebang.
And then came the big day, September 4th, 1882. They flipped the switch, and for the very first time, an entire section of Manhattan was suddenly bathed in safe, steady, reliable electric light. It was the birth of the modern power grid, all because he thought in systems.
But as you can imagine, that kind of success gets you noticed. It attracts competition. And Edison's response to that competition, well, it shows us a much darker, much more ruthless side to the man. This was business, and he was ready to fight dirty.
The main challenger was a guy named George Westinghouse, and he was backing a different technology, alternating current, or AC. Now, Edison's direct current, DC, worked great, but it couldn't travel very far, maybe a mile. Westinghouse's AC, on the other hand, could be sent hundreds of miles away. It was perfect for everywhere outside of the big cities. Suddenly, Edison's entire empire was under threat.
So how did Edison respond? Did he try to innovate and compete on the technology? Nope. He went for fear. He launched a massive smear campaign to convince everyone that AC was a deadly menace. This quote says it all. He was basically framing it as a life or death decision.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say he played dirty. To stoke public fear, his team held public demonstrations where they would kill stray dogs and cats using AC power. The campaign got so grim that it ended with the infamous public electrocution of Topsy, a circus elephant, which his company actually filmed to prove how dangerous AC was. It's truly shocking stuff. And believe it or not, it gets even darker. When New York State was looking for a new way to perform executions, Edison's people secretly pushed them to use the electric chair. And then they made damn sure that the chair was powered by a generator made by their competitor, Westinghouse. The goal was to literally make people hear the words alternating current and think of death. But in the end, despite all these awful tactics, the better technology won. AC became the standard we still use today.
So, after all that, the myth, the factory, the ruthless fight, how do we even begin to define Edison's real legacy? What did he truly invent?
I mean, let's not lose sight of the incredible range of his work. The guy gave us a way to record sound with a phonograph. He pioneered the entire motion picture industry with a kinetoscope. He created some of the first really good rechargeable batteries. The impact his labs had on our world is just undeniable.
But when you really put it all together, you realize his single greatest contribution wasn't a thing at all. It was the blueprint, the system, this idea of a team-based, commercially driven, systematic way of inventing the future. That was the real game changer.
And so that's the question I want to leave you with. We started with this picture of a lone genius, but what we found was a master organizer, a brilliant systems thinker, and a totally ruthless competitor. So what do you think? Was the wizard's greatest trick the light bulb? Or was it inventing the very process of invention itself?